way that we don't have to video?
This is all videoed, so.
Yeah.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Okay. So we're getting pretty close to culmination, I think. I know I've been running into some wrinkles here at the last minute, but hopefully we can talk through some of them. So one of the issues that came up, and I'm looking at the agenda sheet here, is the discussion when you have pro rata share managed centrally by the town, but yet some of the lines are dispersed throughout the various departments. And Mitch, if you want to discuss that, because you brought the issue up, so you might want to give the explanation of what's happened first.
All right. There, as I'm completing the first draft of the budgets, there are line items, as Dennis was saying, that are an umbrella line item for the town, and it's distributed to the different departments, so the departments don't know what they're getting. And so I've got examples of that, and then of course there's the inflation factor, there's the COLA, and there are line items where, like, the inflation factor may be such and such for supplies, let's say.
Yeah.
But for fuel, for electricity, the inflation factor that we can't come up with one inflation factor that will cover all line items. And so what I suggested to Dennis earlier in the week, when I started to see where the holes are that I don't have numbers for, is should we put together one list that we all have of numbers that our department heads don't have, and it would just be guesswork on our part, and send it to Deb and have Deb and the selectmen talk, and then give us their best, the best numbers they can give us at the moment. Deb was just in here, and she said that correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess in past years the state has set, for instance, the price for fuel. And they've received notice that the state's not going to do it. The state's telling everybody to go with market. So what do we put in per gallon of fuel? Do we just come up with our best number and make sure it's the same in everybody's budget, like $4 a gallon, or what do we do about electricity? Can we get from some source the number of watts per hour that each of the departments are being invoiced for, and then measure, multiply that times what the Eversource rate is, per kilowatt hour now, which is like 22, I think, as opposed to 10 point something, and use that as a way of calculating a number. How should we go about that as a group?
Well, as Mitch was saying, we kind of addressed this with Debbie, and she was kind of like, I don't have the numbers, and honestly, no one really has the numbers, so we're kind of in a catch-22. So to answer the question, or to deal with the issue, I came up with a couple of ways that we might be able to address it, at least identify it and address it. I don't know if we can fix it, but one of the ways was what Mitch had proposed, that maybe we identify those collectively, put them in together, a consolidated list, and take it to the town to try to come up with those numbers. The downside to that is I don't think we're going to get an answer. Not now, anyway. The other way would be to just take your best estimate, guess at, that's the only way I know how to say it, just guess at it, whatever you think that number is going to be, put it down, and then in the remarks column or description column, just say this is just a scientific wild guess, SWAG, if you ever heard that acronym. and earmark it as such that we don't have confidence in these numbers because of the volatility of electricity, fuel, diesel. I've got some numbers here from Peter on what he was paying for on various types of vehicles here, some of them being gas, some of them being diesel, but that was based on state prices, and they're not going to be the same prices next year, I don't think. But that's a best guess, I guess. We could use that, but I would. The alternative that I could see is just put down what you believe they would be, and then earmark it in description to say these, this, we have no idea, we can't control what they're doing for gas. Right now you can get gas all I know in Fitchburg, you get it for $3.29, but over here at the mobile station it's $3.59 or something. So as long as you've got a basis somewhere, just mark it down to say, okay, here's the value at this time, and earmark it as, this is to be determined later.
Well, should we, just so there's consistency among all the departments, should we come to on this committee consensus as to like what will we use for gas per gallon? So if we go with $3.50 or $4 or whatever, that we're all using the same factor.
So I think we should all use the same factors, the same assumption across the board. But we do have data, actuals that can track the inflation over the past, 3 or 4 months. Like we can get the electric bills on a monthly basis for the past 4 months, look at what's happened with the trend of what that's doing, and say, okay, how long do we predict this is going to go that way? So at least we can see what the trend has been the last few months over the summer, assuming utilization's about the same, and then we can look at last year's stuff and scale it accordingly. I don't think 8% inflation is going to go for the next year, but we could we could see what the trend is and then set it to 4% or something like that as an estimate. But I think we can come reasonably close. Anybody's guessing, but we don't think it's going to go down ever. So we just look at the trend over the past few months and then scale that to the monthly bill that we had last year.
Well, here's what I experienced in our home, and it depends on who your carrier is, but generally what they do is they negotiate rates for about 6 months at a time, and each of the carriers will transition to those new rates at different times of the year, depending on the carrier. And I know 2 months ago, our usage didn't change, but
the bill changed.
The dollar changed like double.
Yeah,
So
mine too.
I don't know who the carrier is for the town, but we need to be aware that might happen too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would think that then the question we could ask Deb is, what is the town currently paying per kilowatt hour? Or ask her to give us a factor, is the charge per kilowatt hour double? Or what, how much has it increased when the new rates went into effect? And we use that factor, we take what their, like with the fire department, what their electricity rate was in July, the first 6 months of the year. And if Deb says it's doubled, then I should take a look at doubling their electricity bill going forward.
here's another wrench into the problem. I was asking Deb a couple of days ago to generate a new database run on the actual expenditures for where we're at this time of year, which would at least give us some aggregate idea of how much they're spending up to 2 months before the end of the year. Well, 2.5 months. And that would give us some idea. But because they had a transition of an accountant, she's having some issues that she's trying to resolve because she doesn't feel comfortable that the numbers that are going to be generated from this report are going to be accurate. So we're also fighting that issue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she said that there were invoices that were dealt with by the wrong department, the wrong amounts, and so she doesn't have confidence in the numbers.
So, any other alternatives?
Other than that, it's going
That's going great.
That's wonderful. There's two ideas on the table. Any other good ideas on how we can approach this? I might throw another one out there, is just take what the department gives as an estimate and add a factor of 10, 15, 20%, and then earmark it as, based on actuals plus whatever percent. And maybe by the time that we roll around before we hit January, we might have some legitimate numbers that we can actually refine that. But we'll brief the selectmen to say, hey, this is a swag. We just don't have any good data that we can run with right now. And then we just isolate those as being, ones that we can't control. When we throw a guess down, but who knows if it's going to be right? None of us.
Well, let's try to talk about each of them specifically. Like, for instance, for gas, do you want to use a specific number that we put in the descriptor that we're going to go with, the cost per gallon?
We could, but my guess is after the midterms, it's going to go up again.
Well, yeah, particularly because of what happened
That's
with
political.
OPEC. Yeah, it's going to go up. So, so do we take it from $3.50 to $4? I've read, who knows what the truth is, but I've read that because of the reduction in production by OPEC, they're suggesting that the price per gallon is going to go anywhere from 25 to 45 cents a gallon
Or more.
or more. So I think the important part, since we're guessing, is that we just all use the same number.
All right. So take them line by line.
All right.
Fuel. When we say fuel, we're talking about diesel and gas, right?
Right.
All right.
So I don't even know what the price of diesel is right now.
It's probably about $4.50, $4.60 a gallon.
It's close to 5, yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
you
see, the
expect
other
that-
problem is that the state. Well, I don't know how that's going to fall out. The state may have a better number, but
Oh, so when she said that the state was going to just go with market, did that include diesel?
yeah, but they also get it without tax too. So I don't know what the strip out the tax. I don't know what the new value would be though.
Okay. So maybe we go with 5. If it's almost 5, we go with 5 for now. We just say that.
Joe, what do you think?
What do you think, Joe?
So there are 5 accounts for fuel. Town offices is 0. Police, fire department, DPW, and animal control is going to go to 0 as well. So we're only looking at police, fire, and DPW.
Mm-hmm. That's the 3 of us.
Yep. So if we make the assumption that New Hampshire's going to that we could get the fixed rate for diesel fuel, we could probably say that it's going to be at the current rate today, roughly for the next year. I assume that they're working that agreement out now. That's probably reasonable. Maybe go a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Gasoline, if we don't get anything regulation, then maybe we use that 30 cents to 45 cent range, and I mean, we can go high and low. We can present it high and low and say we believe it's going to be in this range here, but it is gonna be a guess, but as long, as long as we try.
Well, I've got some numbers here both for diesel and gas, but that was like a recent bill. I don't think, I wouldn't trust these numbers for next year, but diesel was like about $2 and a few cents change for diesel, which we're not going to see that for any time soon. And it looks like gas was about $3. $3 and change or something like that. I don't know what DS is. Is that, maybe that's diesel? DS, yeah. Okay. I don't know. Let's pick a number and move.
Yep.
So fuel.
We can ask for a report on, so fuel is rough, that's gonna be a challenge, but electricity, we should be able to see some kind of trends. And I understand we had a big step recently, but we'll see that in I think it was August is when that step up came, so we'll probably see that. And I think that would help, but we could ask for a report on a monthly basis, right, for electricity. Do you think Debbie could pull that together for us? Propane?
We could probably get some accurate numbers for 1 month at a time in October, November, December. But as she was saying, they're going to have to basically pay for somebody to go fix the books.
Yeah, they're bringing.
That's how bad it is.
Outsider in to fix it, that's how bad it is.
So, I mean, that's an approach. We could take a snapshot of October and November and generate some kilowatt hours or something like that from that. But
That means we wouldn't get those numbers till about mid-December for
No.
November.
Yeah.
that's
I
right.
wonder if we could reach out to Eversource and the propane supplier and say, can you just give us a snapshot of our account for the past 12 months on a monthly basis? I wonder if they would do that. I mean, I can do it on Eversource, I can do mine online, and I can see consumption and for every month, and they'll even give me the trend report for it. I wonder if we could ask for that from the suppliers.
The only challenge will be, I mean, I would imagine the town has those invoices and statements, but we'd have to ask Deb, then how do you distribute it to the various departments?
They probably have meters,
So you
and
think
they
like-
just sum the meters, and that becomes the bill. But
Yeah.
they should
so
have
you
the
think each
breakout.
of the departments that use electricity are metered separately?
Well,
Oh,
they
yeah,
have to because
electricity's a
they've
lot.
been counting for all the electricity separately by department, so they have to have some kind of
Yeah, there's a ton of electric accounts.
yeah.
We could ask
3,
Deb
6, 7, 8.
to ask the
10 of them.
company for that information.
Yeah. 10 different accounts. And even if Debbie could ask for it, I don't mind pulling the data, get it together and just throw it into Excel and building a report on it. I mean, that wouldn't be that hard.
Okay. So
Propane's the same way, but I don't. Propane only maybe one account. There's not a lot of them.
maybe the best source would be the new accountant. We do have a new accountant in the town, and her name, I think I remember, was Lynn, or I think that was. Don't quote me on that. She might have something in the files that could help us out there. All right.
Yeah, let's push that one off to next week.
I tell you what, yeah, I'm gonna underline fuel, and when I say fuel, I'm talking about gas and diesel, propane, electricity, and at least those three. That may get us closer. And I'll see if I can get some numbers, and I'll pass that out to everybody.
I line item, there's 3 accounts for heat. I assume that's propane, but if there's oil, we probably want to capture that as well.
Some of them that are showing numbers now may go to 0 because I found out they transition from heating oil to propane.
Okay.
So, and that's another, yeah,
Another curve.
we have no history on it, so
Yep.
all we can do is just transfer the number from one line account to another and hope for the best that propane doesn't far exceed heating oil.
Yep.
And you're probably looking at DPW as one of the first ones you saw there.
Yeah, I've got town offices, fire, and welfare,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the DPW. So, maybe I'll interrupt your agenda for a second. So this is the whole list of accounts, and my frustration, well, one of my frustrations is that each department uses the account number differently, inconsistently. So,
Can you give me an example? I think I know what you're talking about, but what examples are
yeah, for example, I've got postage, which is account 625, 1-625.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all postage, and there's about 15 or 20 of them. And then right in the middle of it, there's emergency management has a envelope paper supplies one in there under the same, what other people are using postage for.
It's just labeled differently?
It's
Yeah.
the same account number, but different.
Same account number, but yeah. Now it's a sub-account number, so it's still tied to the right group, but it's different. And when I found that, I said, really, I don't know why I have salaries here, part-time here, and then salary down here and part-time different sub-accounts.
Yeah.
And we talked to Debbie, I think it was last week, she said that we can make some changes to it. And I just wanted to bring that up to say, maybe now is a great time for us to go through and clarify that, because because it's very difficult to say, what is the DPW's fuel expense? I could find other departments easily, but for the DPW one, I'm gonna have to go through every single subgroup, sub-account to find it. It'd be nice if they were all using the same subgroup.
I'm trying to do a recall from what I recall in the lines of accounting, but they have one fuel line of account. Is that what you're referring to?
So.
And I told Peter that we need to get, he gave me some statistics on it, but I've got to calculate through for the gallons of petrol and diesel, but that's all on one line. But
Yeah,
you're saying,
vehicle fuel is actually pretty good. It's all 635.
yeah,
So each town offices, police, fire, DPW, they use that 635. So that was a bad example I pulled up.
okay,
But it's just other things like heat, electricity, vehicle fuel.
yeah, heat's gonna go to 0. Propane will jump. Propane's currently 0, but it's going to pick up the heat line.
Yeah.
All right, well, I didn't know that heat was gonna go to 0, so.
Well, only for DPW. I don't know if that's the same for your department, but it was a big chunk of change. I remember that.
Okay. Well, that's a question I need to ask them.
Another example is publications, 670. So we've got publications on 670. We also have cemetery cleanup on 670.
Cemetery cleanup?
Cleanup, yeah. Yep.
Cemetery.
Oh, cemetery.
Cemetery, yeah. Yep. So it's in the same one as publications, but I also have another account for dues,
I got you.
memberships.
I got you now.
So like one thing Shauna says, he wants to look at well, how does salary go across the board? You can't do that without looking at a whole bunch of sub-accounts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not an easy question. It would take me an hour to be able to answer that question, once all the data was there. But let's just you can take a look at this. I just started to say, my intent was to simplify it and say, oh, here's how we find this stuff, and then I got broken up right away, and I said, hey, that doesn't work. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
I think we should have salary, hourly, part-time hourly, stipends, different groups for, to pull out where they are.
Yeah.
And then we can do easy.
Well, let me tell you what I did. I mean, I don't have stipends, so I don't really know what you're running to against on that, but I do have full-time, part-time, and for the full-time, I captured it by employee X, whatever.
Yeah.
That was simple enough. But in the part-time, because it could be random people, or overtime, that's going to be a subset of the full-time people. So I said, just don't give me the names, just give me the number, estimated hours, and your estimated hourly wage and hours, and calculate for the overtime, which is twice.
Yeah.
And or time and a half, whatever. And then for part-time, that's random. I just said, give me your estimates on what you're paying an hourly rate for part-time and the number of hours that you've consumed in the past. So don't worry about the names, just capture a number, but you can defend it by saying hours and rate.
Yeah.
And leave it at that, because we'll drive her so crazy.
Yeah. So I think that getting the numbers has been an okay exercise.
Yeah.
It's just where it goes today versus where it probably ought to go.
Right.
That's the only thing.
But you're absolutely right. This whole chart of accounts needs major cleanup.
Yeah.
But this didn't happen yesterday. This
Right.
has been going on for who knows how long. Since the
Until
80s, maybe.
Until we were lucky enough to walk in here.
Yeah.
and
I'm actually
volunteer.
surprised that it hasn't been fixed with the last group of people. You just glance at that, it's all sorted by sub.
So, before we move on, let me
Yep.
just try to close this out with a plan of attack. I will try to reach out to Debbie to see if we can get some kind of information on providers for fuel, propane, electricity, and estimates going forward. And as long as we've got, consumption, then I guess we can do the math on it. Does that sound like a plan of attack?
Yes.
But in the meantime, as you're putting your numbers together, put a number down there and identify this is unvetted or unvalidated or whatever.
Yep.
So we'll know that this is not a clean number.
But, do you want to tackle what we were talking about before we started the meeting in terms of what do we use for inflation and COLA?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I wanted to. Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna,
sorry. I'm
No. That's something that we need to address, and that's the 2B item there.
Yeah.
I did a quick. Well, I'll jump down to 2B. I'll skip over 2A for the moment. I went to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and I was able to ferret down the inflation rate for Hillsborough County, New Hampshire, which I was surprised because I thought it was, the granularity, the best granularity I thought would be New Hampshire, and that was it. But no, they actually have it by county, and they said the inflation was 7% for Hillsborough. And I also looked up the COLA, and I think the COLA came out to be, I tell you, I'm going to give you a number, but don't take this to the bank because I'm pulling it from the top of my head. It may be another 6.7 was the COLA adjustment for, in this case, it was New Hampshire.
Yep.
And it might be 6.2, and I apologize. My brain's not doing total recall right now, but I'll send that out to everyone. I sent a note to Sean and Debbie on what I found, just to give them a heads up, just to sort of greasing the skids to know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to probably get the full COLA and the full inflation? Probably not. So the question is, I feel like it's up to us to take something to the selectmen with some kind of a recommendation. Debbie mentioned before the meeting started, you know, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we've got people that we don't want to run out of town because we're underpaying them so badly in comparison to other towns that you know, they're chasing the money. We don't want to keep our good people. So we have to come up with something to keep that carrot out there and keep them happy, at least to the point of an inconvenience that they don't move.
Right.
If that makes sense. So just throwing something out on the table, I was thinking like whatever those rates are, cutting it in half and putting that out there as a recommendation. That would be one recommendation. Another recommendation, just take the Bureau of Labor and Statistics number. At least that's a benchmark that they know that they can look at and know what they're making decisions upon. And I'm looking, you know, any other suggestions on how we might approach this?
Well, all things being equal, if the target is to try to come up with a budget that will be realistically meeting the department's needs, because we don't want to come up with, you know, a budget number that's people are going to go way over. So we need to come up with something that is realistic.
What do you mean by a budget number that people would go way over?
Well,
You mean
for
that they
instance,
would spend more?
Yeah, we
Okay.
couldn't come in with the same budget that we had last year in terms of expenses, because people will go over that. So we need to come up with something that's realistic. We need to factor in what you were just saying, that it's the COLA is reasonable given the circumstance. But what I feel is missing is how, you know, when we put all the budgets together, all the departments together for a grand budget for the town, how does that match revenue? You know, without knowing that, we won't know if we're asking the town for, let's say hypothetically, we come in with a $500,000 increase in the budget. I'm just throwing out a number, but the revenue turns out to be $1 million more. You know, I feel like we're kind of shooting in the dark without knowing what we should be targeting in order to maintain property taxes. Because Deb also, you know, Deb kind of argued both sides of the coin. She said, you know, we need to be able to keep our people, okay? And we need to be realistic about the inflationary factor on particularly the big ticket items. But at the same time, if we come in with a budget that is, you know, excessive, then people are going to vote it down. And so, you know, I get that, but I don't know how to hit the target well enough without all information to base it on.
I think to answer that question, I think the only way that you can fend that off is to provide information to the town. In other words, do a preface before you lay out a budget to say, look, this is an exceptional year. This is an anomaly year that we've not experienced in many, many years in the past. But we've been fighting the issue of realism. You know, our costs have gone up. You know it. You've experienced it. Your electricity, your fuel, your groceries, everything involved is going up. It would be unrealistic to expect the town to be able to toe the line and not, you know, increase some level or without the risk of chasing people off, or not having services because you didn't have salt for your roads, or whatever. And preface it with that. Educate them first, and then say, now knowing that, we were very mindful of taking the selectmen's guidance to try to toe the line and not go rampant, not compare other towns, but realistically try to keep at the same operating tempo that we've had in the past and factor that in with what we feel is a realistic inflation or COLA variation from that. And hopefully that would sell. I don't know, but if people say, no, I want to have it exactly where it was, then the risk is, well, you're going to start losing people. You may not have salt for your roads. You may not be able to get all the trees that you want cut from the roads that are now impeding visibility, whatever. Or you may not have a service call quick enough from the police department, or you may not have, sufficient people to get to a fire quickly. You can throw a lot of examples out there, but you have to be proactive and at least paint the picture to at least explain to them some level of expectation of what we're faced with. And then comes the issue of revenues overlaying the expenses. And maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, the revenues which we anticipate to increase because we have new homeowners in the town, that there will be an offset there.
Do we have an idea when we'll find out about that, or realistically?
I ask Debbie that every single time when I see her, and she still doesn't have an answer, so I don't know what to tell you. At some point in time, between now and December, we're going to have that number, though.
So if we think we're going to have that number December 1st, we put a bogey in there for COLA and inflation. And as we come closer to getting that real number, where we're going to be revenue wise, we say the state is inflation is 7%. The New Hampshire state COLA is, say, 6.7, what it is now. So our recommendation is going to be that 6.7. We put that in our budget right now today, with the understanding that if revenue's not there to support it, we tweak that variable and drop it down to whatever we have to at that point, but not go below a certain number.
All right.
But we can set that expectation, and then as we go through all of our reviews, say, hey, this is based on an assumption that revenue is going to support a COLA of, say, 6.7, whatever the Hillsborough number was, and then say we can make a minor change. I wouldn't recommend going below, to 5, for example, but we can make a change before. We can make a change before January, right, before we submit to the state.
Right.
So we really have some time, as long as we've got it set up that we can change a variable.
Right.
Then it's easy at that point. I'm reluctant to say I recommend going with, a number for us, because, I like talking to Mike, for example. He's really nervous. He just got fully staffed now. He's like, look, they're offering signing bonuses in other towns. He's up against that challenge as well. So to say that, well, we're going to recommend going something low when we know it's 6.7%, I don't think that's our way. I think we should say, here's what the state's doing.
Yeah.
Sean, you and we don't want to make a decision that's going to impact your people. But now you have the facts. This is what the state does, and then let them toss around some numbers.
Well, I really don't want to put that monkey solely on our back.
I don't want to put our back at all.
Let me make a suggestion, because this is really something that I think we got to push out to the selectmen to get engaged in with as well.
Yeah, but I don't think we can do that now.
No, I don't think so either. But
we know it's going to be a challenge. We know it's going to be a problem. We still have another 6 weeks or so before we have to panic about it.
Right.
So we'll just.
Well, let's not panic about it, because that was the other point I was going to make. I've been I'm pretty good with Excel. Except Mitch might think I'm crazy because he couldn't figure out.
No.
But what I was working on, and I was kind of hoping to have it done before tonight, but I haven't finished it yet because I came across some issues that I didn't feel comfortable with. But I'm working on a template that's separate from our master database gathering worksheet. That what you do is you put employee X, Y, Z, and it calculates through at a variable rate of COLA, and I set it at 0. So when it calculates through, there's no inflation or COLA attached to it.
Yeah.
But it'll calculate through all the way for FICA, Medicare. It will calculate through for health, dental, vision. It will calculate through for retirement. And I'm using those numbers that were given to us. And there's a question that I want to bring up. I'm not really certain about the health numbers because Debbie gave me some numbers that I think she sent to you earlier. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. We can leave it at 0 for now, and it's a very simple fix. All you got to do is plug in the COLA number percentage,
Yep.
and boom, it populates everything out. So all you got to do is just go back, find those holes, plug those numbers in.
And it allows you to distinguish between those, for instance, who may get retirement or
Yes.
insurance and those who don't.
Yes. Well, remember the retirement is 35 hours or more.
Right.
And in my case, all the people are 35 or more. So if you plug it in for retirement, you have to ensure that it's 35 hours or more. And I think in most cases that is the case, but just verify
I
that.
don't have anybody who's in retirement.
Yeah.
I know who's 35 hours.
Yeah. And it also goes through, like for overtime, it recalculates what the FICA and the Medicare and the retirement cost is based on the overtime money that they get. So it factors that all in there.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is plug in one number for FICA, one number for Medicare, one number for retirement. And, I want to send it out to everybody so you can look at it to make sure that it's doing what you expect it to do. Because I don't want, one formula can screw up everything. So I'm working on that to make all of our jobs a little easier because 1% change, man, it's like reworking the whole thing over again. And it's a slugfest. So,
I appreciate you doing that.
so I will get that out to you as soon as I can.
I'll send you a version of the police department. This is the animal control. This is why I just wanted to walk through this quickly with you.
Sure.
This does the same thing. It's sorry about the eye test. It's pretty small print. But what I did was I created a worksheet for variables. In this case, it's animal control. It's basically COLA, inflation percentage, whether it's rating 1, 2, 3. Everything I do says required, suggested, or desirable.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a mileage rate in here as well. So with one sheet, I can change these variables and everything else scales.
Cool.
But on the first page is our roll up. That's done automatically now. The first worksheet is wages, and it's just like you said. I have a name in here, status, part-time, prioritization,
Mm-hmm.
required, hourly rate, and then it comes out to end of the year salary.
Right.
And then there's COLA factor, which right now says 0.
Yeah.
That gets pulled off that variables tab.
Yeah.
And then the part-time pay for the roll-up gets calculated here. FICA, Medicare gets calculated automatically. It's pretty easy, but I did that for each.
You may have
department.
something very similar to what I've got
Yeah.
already. So
You
whatever
great
works
minds
for
think
you,
alike.
as long as
Yeah.
it makes sense and
Yeah.
you double check
And
the numbers on the backside to make sure your computer's telling you what you expect.
yeah, and I'm gonna use your spreadsheet and I'm gonna verify mine, so we're getting the same numbers. But I
But-
have different worksheets for training and in each one, so I'll put the training event down, I'll say whether it's suggested, desirable, required, and then I work with the department head and we just go through and say the same thing, required, no, that's
So-
mandatory, it's not mandatory.
Is there a lot of money in that training account?
Is there a lot of money in it? Yeah, it's adding up fast,
Okay.
so we're
See, I don't have that experience. The DPW has a very small training budget, so.
There's gonna be, I don't remember the number, I have a fair amount of money in the training budget for the fire department too. For people who are needing to,
Yeah.
everything from CPR to certification.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I
always,
can see-
firefighting and all
I
that.
could see that being a little more detailed
Yeah.
than what,
yeah.
the road gang.
Yeah, the police departments, well, a lot of it is done online, that's relatively inexpensive,
Yeah.
but there's training for town officers and town clerk every year, annual refresh, and even animal control has a certification they have to maintain, so.
Yeah.
But this just gave an example of what I did, for the different, pretty much, the whole budget is broken out into different worksheets,
Okay.
so.
Okay, so I'll get that out as soon as I can to everybody. I just need to feel a little bit comfortable with it before I do. And right now, I'm not there yet. Okay, so we were talking about the COLA.
So if you, I like what Joe was suggesting, that if you could send us the inflation rate for Hillsborough, was that the inflation rate? And then
Yeah, I'll just forward the
COLA.
email.
And then we just
to
go ahead and use
everybody.
that as more as a placeholder and to see how it works out
Sure.
budget-wise versus revenue,
Yeah,
But for the time being, remember, part of our milestones is to give them a baseline draft, and I don't want to put inflation COLA numbers in there just yet. I want, because
yeah, we can do it at 0%
Yeah.
first and say, here's,
I don't want to freak them out, putting in a number that, just, so we need to discuss that with the selectmen before we start throwing percentages and numbers down, but it's there. So when that decision comes, we put in that percentage and boom, it kicks all the numbers out you need to plug in to your, and then just say C, addendum, worksheet, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then that gives, the justification for it. Okay.
I'm sorry, finish up what you know, and then I'll comment.
That's all right, go ahead. What?
The last slide, the last page, the last worksheet,
Mm-hmm.
It's a quick summary. I put the 2021 actual budget, the 2022 budget,
Yep.
our revised 2023 budget.
Mm-hmm.
I calculated the increase over 2022
Mm-hmm.
and marked that as a percentage. And then I have a text column. So what I did was I scanned down, I said, what's the highest percentage increases? If, for example, training was a 42% increase, and I made a note that said, that assumes that we pay 25% of her animal control's training requirements.
Where's animal control at? I see.
The
Is
whole-
that just training?
It's ACO is animal control, so it's all. It's
I
only
got it.
animal
Yeah,
control.
animal control training. Got it. Yeah, ACO. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But I found this really handy because when you look at it, all those line items are going through. It doesn't jump out as what the problem was or where we're going up. And this summary was really easy to pull together based on the master list, updated master list.
Yeah.
And then you quickly showed where's the big hitters.
Well, the one thing that jumped out at me, and this is my accountancy jumping out at me, is even though it's a 25% jump, it's a small dollar amount, so the impact is very low.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
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 So I start getting heart palpitations when we're talking about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, and then you're jumping 25%. Now we're talking
Yeah.
some serious dough.
Yep.
So when you're talking about $300, $250, whatever. Okay. So yeah, this is exactly what I was kind of doing on mine too, making assumptions because based on the discussions. So like on that other one where you got that note on there, it's a $400 to when it went from $1 to $400, so it's a big jump, but it's still relatively low dollar threshold.
Yep.
And your annotation of 62.5% cents per mile. Yeah. The only thing that I don't know how it's going to be hard or not to get actual mileage, but they should have something.
So that's the IRS reimbursement rate for the fiscal year 2023. So that's good until June
Right.
of this year. So
Right. And I think that's what the town's using too.
yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah.
I'll email the spreadsheet out to everybody just in case you wanted to tinker with it. But, yeah, I've got the same thing for each of the departments now. So
Yeah, I think I've seen an iteration of this. Did you not send
I
something?
did, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
You got the police department one.
Yeah.
Back before it was the police department one's in very good shape. I've got a few open questions for Mike, but we're in good shape. He's on vacation till next week.
By the way, did you see the
I
video?
did see that. Yeah,
Okay.
I was nervous. As soon as they asked the question, I said, "Here it
Mike,
comes."
Mitch doesn't know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Look at the last Board of Selectmen meeting on last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Joe got a couple of kudos. I thought they were.
Yeah, the police. Mike came in, and first question was, "Have you been working with the fAC?" And he said, "Yeah, it's a learning curve." And I'm like, "Oh my God, here it comes." But then he said, "No, he said it was going well, so that was good." Yeah,
Good, very good.
yeah. It definitely made me nervous, though. I said, "Uh-oh."
Well, I think we all knew that it was going to be a learning curve. That's not any surprise to us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've not really done a deep dive like this. When I say deep dive, I don't mean into their knickers, but at least get some granularity on the big numbers. And the other thing that came up, and this just no by the way comment, I sent out an email about the supply issue. I kind of fell off the horse on that one. The comment was in the all hands, I said, I'm not looking to nickel and dime you on the supply accounts because I'm not wanting to count paper clips, pens, reams of paper, blah, blah, blah. But then I saw some of the accounts had some pretty stiff, well, $3,000, $6,000, $10,000 supply accounts. I said, ooh, what's in that? And then I said, we spoke in another meeting and said, maybe we ought to look into that. Okay, forget what I said in the last meeting. Just try to aggregate as best as you can on the supplies, what they're buying, and let it ride. Okay, because I had to eat crow on that. That's okay. But
I
I
felt
hope
I was
it didn't
digging-
create any grief for you guys.
I felt like I was digging a lot with working with Mike, and we're talking about the price of chairs, just regular chairs, and he says, "Remember, I'm not talking about a regular chair you can buy at Staples. It's got to be wide enough for a guy wearing a police belt." And the big reality says, "How much more are they?" He goes, "Factor of 3." I said,
Oh my God.
wow. Things I wouldn't have known. I would have said, "Geez, that's an awfully expensive chair,"
Yeah.
But I said, "No, you got to buy special chairs so that they're big enough so that you're not getting hooked on it. It's not blocking you. It's not going to be in the way.
Yeah.
Things that you
Don't
wouldn't
want
think
to catch a chair that grabs the hammer and pulls it back when you get up out of the chair, right?
of."
Yeah, if you're
So,
familiar with firearms, you knew what that meant.
yep.
Yeah.
So definitely learning experience for me as well.
Okay. So, I don't want to close out here with leaving anything up. Do we have any more discussion on where we're going with an inflation COLA right now?
No, I mean, as I understand, we're gonna just keep those numbers that you gave us in the back of our head,
Yeah,
but we're gonna wait till we have a meeting with the selectmen.
please, please.
Okay.
And maybe what we need to do is schedule a 30-minute block with the selectmen as a FAC coming in to discuss some of these nuances, such as the COLA, the inflation, and at least get them up to speed with where we're at and what we're dealing with, and get them thinking about it. And then
You know, I
maybe
think that would be good. I think that'd be real good. Instead of talking about it when we're giving them the first look at the budgets itself, that we just have a more focused meeting with them about some of the big ticket items, fuel, oil, gas, propane, whatever, electricity, and
Okay.
COLA and inflation.
all
I
right.
mean, that I think will take, that will be a pretty lengthy discussion just on that topic.
Okay, all right. I will try to get something scheduled. I don't know if it'll be this week, maybe the next week. at least 15 minutes, hopefully, with the boss. And in turn, if you could start making a list of those things that you want to address that may have some special interest to them, and then we'll gather that up collectively, consolidate, and try to make a presentation out of it. Okay, so I will try to get a 15, hopefully maybe 30 minutes of their time on one of their meetings, and put together something that we can address with them.
So today is the 17th,
Yes.
so we'd wanna get on there on the 25th then, right?
That would be,
Now,
yes,
I'm gonna be out of
yes.
town, that Monday. Let me take a look here.
Well, this is a Tuesday when they have their meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of town Monday through Thursday,
Oh,
the
well, if you
21st through the 24th.
could give us your input with some specificity so that they can understand what you're trying to impart to them. Joe, Luke, and I think probably could handle it for you.
That's fine.
I don't know if we're
the question
looking
is-
for answers,
Yeah,
but we're looking to get them into that thinking mode of what we're coming up with.
now, that Tuesday night is a public meeting for them, so are you wanting to have that discussion in a public meeting?
What's,
The next, are you talking about a week from tomorrow night?
yeah,
Every Tuesday, the selectmen's meetings are public.
Oh, every Tuesday.
all of
is,
them
yeah.
are, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, so are you wanting to have that discussion?
I mean, this is a public meeting, just to have more people interested in what they need.
Yeah, exactly.
I was hoping for standing room only.
I told you we should have brought beer.
All right, the question is public or non-public is what you're really trying to say,
Yeah, I'm
right?
wondering if we should, invite Sean to a meeting, and then he could take it back to the selectmen for discussion.
All right, let me see what I can do. I'll ask people that are a lot smarter than me about whether we should go public or non-public. I don't care one way
Well,
or the other.
It'll still be a public meeting, it'll just be whether we go with or use our time slot or his time slot, right? Right there.
All right. No,
So-
that's true. Yeah.
And
Okay.
we could wait till the 1st, and then we use the half hour to give a 15-minute overview of the budget by department, real quick presentation. I mean, we don't need to get into this level of detail here,
Yeah.
but we can say, here's where we are, and the next 15 minutes we say, here are the challenges that we'll need to work, and inflation being one, and
Right.
COLA being the other, and
Yeah.
where our open, maybe we don't need to, because we have a deliverable at the end of the month, the first would be a good opportunity to go through, or maybe we do it on the, 31st at our meeting, invite them to that.
That would be October the 31st. Oh, that's right. I see it.
Yeah,
I like that
Okay.
idea.
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking maybe the 31st?
31st?
yeah,
That would be our meeting then.
that
We'll
way
just
if
offer
they-
the invitation to any and all selectmen, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we could, that way if they wanna go over, we've got a whole hour that we could spend on,
Sure.
talking about it.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I'll let you know. Well, that kind of addresses 2A. Because I kind of wanted to get back to him to give him kind of where we're at.
Yeah,
But I was kind of hoping that by the end of this month, we could get a rough draft together, consolidated in a, albeit incomplete, a rough draft on where we're at with the numbers that we have for each of the departments. Is that possible?
I think so. I'm still a little confused about what you want us to use for where we're at in terms of plugging in the cost for fuel, propane, and all that stuff. Can we just go with the same?
Just for the time being, let's go with whatever they estimate, the departments estimate, and we'll mark it as inflatable or inflation. And in the description, the first words that you say is unvalidated or unvetted or something to that effect. And that will flag to us to know that these issues still have to be resolved because of the nuance of kilowatt hours or the gallons per price per gallon or for diesel or fuel or gas or whatever. And I think that they will understand that that's something that we still have to come to grips with. But I did want to give them some idea of where we're at in terms of the aggregate numbers. Albeit the majority of it, except for some of these ankle biter issues, like some of these 1A items or 1 items, fuel, electricity.
What I'm thinking though is if the, let's say the police department comes in with an estimate for gas, okay, and they pick a number that they think is gonna be per gallon, and I go with the fire department and they pick a different number.
Yeah.
Can we get it, so in the police department, I actually have it by gallon. So,
I have total gallons
That's
in the fire department.
right, so then we can,
I think I do too.
yeah, so I'm using gallons, and then I have a dollar value in there, in the spreadsheet, so I
Now,
can
how
just
are you
change the
picking
dollar
it?
value and it propagates.
Should we all use the same dollar
Absolutely.
value? That's what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
All right,
Yeah.
I tell you what, let's close the loop on that. This is an arbitrary number. Fuel, we'll say $3.50. Is
I
that
think
reasonable?
I think there was a fuel rate. That I found on a state site, New Hampshire fuel rate.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was like 329 or 379. I don't remember, but let's let me work on that. I'll send a message out tomorrow on that.
Okay. So we'll take whatever your numbers are, but again,
Yeah,
we'll just annotate it in the description. It's unvetted, unverified, so we're all using the same numbers though.
yep.
And so
Okay.
for diesel, what do you want to use?
Well, if he's got the,
Do you have
I don't
the?
know, I won't have diesel
oh
though.
no.
Okay.
Well, I think I haven't seen anything cheaper than $4.60 much anywhere, but that's, the going rate for paying taxes, so I don't say maybe, I don't know, $4 again,
You want to go $4 and just put in the description, this is our estimate,
unvetted,
excluding
unverified,
taxes?
yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if gas is right. $3.50 may be a lot less in actuality, but $4 for diesel. That's at least a benchmark.
Okay, and propane?
Same thing for electricity. Okay, in those cases, let's just put in the estimate that is given to you by the department, and we'll just say we have no basis, TBD. Are we good with that?
Sure.
I know it's funky, but okay. All right. Quick question: have any of you come across estimates for workman's comp? No. Maybe it's just me.
I have a line item for it,
Okay.
and I think I was using last year's budget for it. But I don't know why. I don't know why I have
you
it, though.
You do. It's in the town budget.
Yeah, it's in the
That's
town
what
budget.
I have some numbers, but I think that that's going to have to be a Debbie question based on, but I have some numbers from DPW, and it may be only DPW that has workman's comp. I don't know. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk, in the last minutes that you published, Joe, you had a table for June through January through June for health, dental,
Yes.
and I don't know if vision was in there or not. I think just
Was
health
not
and
vision,
dental.
no.
Yeah. And you had a July through December value.
Yep.
Now, is that the whole number that has to be paid? What I mean by that is that's the whole number that somewhere between the employee and the employer pays. I guess what I'm.
So that the school care one is the whole number, and the employee pays, I believe it's 15% of that. So the town pays 85% of that.
So the number that we see in, and this is important, the number that we see in the minutes, we have to factor in 85% of that?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I was trying to drive at.
Yeah.
Because that's the reason why I didn't want to send that calculator out.
Yeah.
Because I sense that I think we need to use the at 85% factor,
Yeah, definitely.
and that would. So I'm going to redo those numbers at. Actually, I'm not going to redo the numbers. I'm going to use the basic table and create another table that factors in 85% of those values, so you can see where those numbers came from.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
But what I did in that, the school care file, was I took the 2023 rate, the 2024 rate, and I averaged the two together in the bottom. So we just want to do math, just use the average rate for the fiscal year.
I saw what you did. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I took the first 6 months, cranked it through with their salary, and then the second 6 months with the other values, so it was precise. So your number's not incorrect for budgeting. You can do it that way. I just didn't do it that way, but
Yeah, I understand.
yeah. So just potato, tomato, tomato,
Yep.
whatever. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I did address this with Debbie before the meeting, was, and I think we discussed this, was the current execution rates, and she doesn't have confidence in them, so I was kind of hoping we could have a better benchmark to see where they were in execution to validate our numbers. But I guess we're not going to get that. Life ain't easy. Not always easy.
If we wait until the new software is available, we'll have a lot more features.
Yeah.
Energy.newhampshire.gov has the price at $3.82 a gallon.
For gas?
Energy.nh.gov, and they probably have prices for propane as well. Energy.newhampshire.gov.
Energy. all one word.
Yeah, energy dot
Energy.
NH.
Oh,
dot
.nh.
gov.
.gov.
Yep.
All right.
So 382.
All right.
And that 382 was from September 8th. That was the last time they updated it, so it may have a new number now.
Yeah,
but
that seems high. That's for gas with the tax, state tax attached to it, right? Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know. I didn't. I just found that and said, "Hey, this is the price I'm using."
So what, did we stay with the 350 or 385 or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, 382. So it
382.
382. Yep. And we can refresh that number as well. But no, we would be paying the state tax anyway because we're buying gas from local. We're not getting a deal through anyone else.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
we have to pay the state taxes.
So 382. I've changed that, Mitch. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You're way ahead of me, buddy. And $4 for diesel. All right. Wow. Anybody got anything else to throw on the fire?
No, I think
You got some more gasoline you can throw on the fire?
Well, I don't want to throw gas on it.
No, no.
382.
Mm.
No, I think we've covered a lot. We've
Well,
got a lot of work to do. so-
that's the reason why these meetings are important, because each of us run into special issues or complications along the way, and many times it applies to all of us. Anything else, guys?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay, Mitch?
Yeah, I am too, Dennis. Thanks.
Okay, I make a motion, then we adjourn.
Excellent.
If you want to take a look at this, that's Joe passed that.
That just explains the challenges we have with the sub-account numbers. I sorted it by the
That's
last
what this
three
is?
digits. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So at first it looks really easy, and then it gets messy after that. And we can talk about that next week too. I'm sure we're not going to make changes right away, but I think it'll be nice to map the current account groups that we have to what we would recommend they be.
Okay.
And like salary, I would have, there's 5 levels. There's part-time, hourly, there's salary. I put stipend in there. I would change it, go from 110 would be full-time salary,
I see that.
111 would be part-time,
Yeah.
hourly rate, something like that.
And these are all the 110 and 111s.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
And then I think there's overtime is the 115 or something, but it definitely shows that
Mm-hmm.
not quite as intuitive as you think. And then in the big picture, there's the 100 was wages. There's supplies was I think 400, and then there's 600 which are like equipment. And if we were to go through and refresh this from the start, we probably want to brainstorm for a couple hours and go through and say, we want 100 to be pay, 200 to be, what do we want that to be, 300, and then break it down at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something we're going to do in a matter of minutes because I spent probably 2 hours trying to figure out how's the easy way of fixing this, and there isn't one.
Most modern day software has a basic chart of accounts where it has salary, overtime, workman's comp, retirement, blah, 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 salaries. I don't mean salaries, supplies, blah, goes right down the list. And that chart account is available to every single department. But then the way they separate it is that they have categories that they attach to each of those accounts as it applies to each of those departments. So everybody's got the same chart of accounts. The only difference is there is a relationship to those accounts to each of those departments where those accounts apply to them. Not all of them may apply to them and they won't have those accounts.
Yep.
But that's
I wonder.
That would avoid some of these
Exactly.
cross numbers that you're seeing here
Yeah.
and differing names for
Yeah.
the same account number.
Yeah,
I wonder if Debbie can give us a list of the account numbers or account types in the new software she's buying